Hello everyone, Shadefyre here, and welcome to episode 1 of Let's Play Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. Now some of you who've seen previous LPs I've done might wonder why I'm skipping over Resident Evil 2 and going straight to 3. I've got a couple of reasons for this. First of all, Resident Evil 3 takes place timeline-wise at roughly the same time as Resident Evil 2, so there's not really any sort of direct sequel going on here from the second game. In fact, this is more of a sequel to Resident Evil 1 as well. 2. This is a shorter game, since it only has a single character to pick from instead of the two characters from most other Resident Evil games. And it doesn't have the dual scenario system that Resident Evil 2 has, where different characters will have sort of a different setup depending on which character you play as first. Finally, this is a game I just know a bit better than Resident Evil 2, so I feel I can kind of show it off a bit better. Anyhow, let's just jump in here. We've got a choice between hard mode and easy mode at the beginning. Easy mode really is easy mode because it starts you with a whole pile of weapons. And we'll show that off at the end of this episode, just to see kind of the difference. Hard mode is basically just the normal mode. It's kind of the normal way to play the game. So we're going to go with that.
Resident Evil.
It all began as an ordinary day in September. An ordinary day in Raccoon City. A city controlled by Umbrella. No one dared to oppose them, and that lack of strength would ultimately lead to their destruction. I suppose they had to suffer the consequences of their actions, but there would be no forgiveness. If only they had had the courage to fight. It's true that once the wheels of justice begin to turn, nothing can stop them. Nothing. It was Raccoon City's last chance, and my last chance. My last escape.
This is Chopper Delta, preparing to drop off at area E95070. Over.
What are they?
Waiting orders. Over. All units proceed to Richmond and Victoria. All right.
Let's do it. Let's move. Go, 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 go. Fire! Come and get it. Son of a... Don't give up. There are too many. Don't hold back. Where are they? Where did they come from? It's pointless. Take this! Die! You want some more?
And so the game literally begins with a bang. Now from that opening cutscene, you might recognize some stuff if you've ever seen the second live-action Resident Evil movie, Apocalypse. Was it Apocalypse? I think it was Apocalypse, thus making it the only Resident Evil movie to actually sort of follow one of the games. And I've already failed to dodge the first zombie in the game. Off to a good start here. This is also the first Resident Evil to use a returning character, Jill Valentine from the first game. Only now she's traded out her sort of weird S.T.A.R.S outfit with beret for a completely impractical leather miniskirt and blue tube top.
September 28th, daylight. The monsters have overtaken the city. Somehow, I'm still alive. Okay, we've got to get out of here.
What? What do you think you're talking about? I just lost my daughter out there! How dare you tell me to go back outside?
I'm sorry about your daughter, but there isn't gonna be any rescue. We have to get out of here!
No! I'm not going anywhere! I'd rather starve to death in here than be eaten by one of those undead monsters! Now leave me alone!
So, in the time between that first scene and now, Jill made a friend, but now they're not on speaking terms. Now that's Dario, or Dario? I don't remember exactly his name, but I don't think it's really spoilers to say we're never going to see him again.
I told you! I'm not leaving! Never! Just get away from me.
He's just going to live the rest of his life out in this shipping crate. You might have also noticed that this game looks quite a bit better than the first game, or the second game. The main reason for this is just because this came out about 6 months before the PS2 first launched, so it's a late generation PS1 game, and therefore kind of aged the best out of the PS1 Resident Evil games. Another thing you might notice is the animation and sort of movement is a lot faster and more fluid than it is in the first two, and I think that's the reason that I like playing this one better. Like, it actually just feels a bit better to play than the other two. I mean, it's still got weird tank controls, but they're a little bit faster and more responsive, so they're not quite as bad. You might have noticed in our inventory we got this blue book and this red book. These are actually like manuals, and we have to use them to get rid of them. They're kind of helpful because, like most Resident Evil games, this game has a few mechanics that are unique to just this one Resident Evil. Since they do love changing random stuff constantly. So this just tells us about all sorts of stuff that's new, which I'll cover in a second. And then the second manual tells us about one of the new systems, the bullet reloading system. Basically, there are 3 different kinds of gunpowder we can find in the game, and we can combine them in different ways to make other gunpowder, and then use the reloading tool to turn them into new types of ammunition. Which is that sort of cranky looking thing on the top right. It does actually take up a spot in our inventory, it's not just our sort of character slot that they had in the other games. Of course, being a female character, Jill has 8 slots instead of 6, so that'll come in handy. There's also a first aid spray. Now, like all other Resident Evils, you want to try to avoid first aid sprays if you plan to replay the game, as it affects your ending rank and determines how many costumes you'll get. And first aid sprays will reduce your rank, but full health items other than the first aid spray will not. Not really sure why. I guess because they don't use up as many resources as making the full health combinations of herbs. Well, it's shiny, so we've got to pick it up. Our first key. And again, like other Resident Evil games, we can examine our keys and whatnot to either change their name or just change the item completely. This is the backdoor key. It's our only way out of this warehouse. Here we've got some gunpowder. Gunpowder A can be used to make handgun bullets. You can also combine you can combine gunpowders into a pile of 3, for example. We can combine these two into a bigger pile to save space and make more ammunition at once. But we're not going to do that because we can also combine them with other things. For example, combining handgun. I'm going to keep saying handgun. Gunpowder. Combining gunpowder A with gunpowder B will give you gunpowder C, which you can use to make grenade rounds, as well as magnum bullets. Still use ink ribbons to save. I think ink ribbons are a bit more rare in this game. Not every save room has a pile of ink ribbons, or at least not every typewriter, because there are a few outside of save rooms. Alright, let's get rid of our first aid spray, our reloading tool, and this is probably the only time this is ever going to happen, but we're going to take out the knife. Ammo isn't a huge concern because of the gunpowder system and the fact that there's gunpowder and bullets hidden in the environment. But at the very beginning here, it is a little bit scarce, and zombies are fairly common, so we're going to try to use the knife to save some ammo. Now, I'm a fan of the Resident Evil series, but I'm not one of those people who likes it enough to try to play the entire game with just the knife. So I'm pretty fucking terrible with the knife. Out into the city we go. Ah, it was a trick. Now we could go that way, but before we do that, let's pop into here. Which for some reason is a metal door that leads into a wall blocking off an alleyway. I can only assume that they did this for loading screen purposes, because otherwise it doesn't make any sense that all of these alleyways have doors leading into them instead of just, you know, being an alleyway. What a jerk. He left all of his zombies for us to deal with. So this is a part that I always have trouble with at the beginning. Because there are about 5 zombies that just rushed out that door, and a couple of them are rather agitated. You can tell by how fast they're moving. Okay, this guy slowed down. Okay, I think I actually got that guy. Shit. Need about 4 hits to try to knock this guy down with a knife. Or 3. But he'll get back up, so we want to just keep hammering at him. Alright. Actually managed to kill a guy without getting grabbed. That's a first. Now I want to see if I can try to show off the new dodge system. It's actually fairly similar to the one in Resident Evil Revelations, where we tap a button that does something else right before we get grabbed to make it do that instead. Though again, if you time it wrong, you just do whatever the button does instead of what you're trying to do. Zombie really got knocked on his ass. Right when he gets close to me, I want to pull the aim button and shove him, which can sometimes knock them down. And you can, if you time it right, you can do it multiple times until you knock them down. I don't like dealing with that guy because he's a fast zombie, and this is an enclosed space. So we're going to sprint in here, grab the things we need, lighter fluid, and a shotgun. They give you the shotgun pretty early, but I guess they do in the first game as well. We're not going to waste it because, you know, we've only got 7 shells right now. So this door up here leads back into the room we were just in, or the hallway we were just in. The street we were just in, rather. Confusing myself all over the place. And we're going to pop back in there before we progress. I want to see if I can trigger something. That was it. If you go through that door, a random girl shows up and then runs away. I'm not really sure if that's a reference to something else, if she shows up in Resident Evil 2 or something, and I just don't remember. But, yeah, that's a thing you can trigger. To try to change this game up for replaying it, they actually sort of added a randomization system, where certain events would change depending on things you do, or, you know, puzzles will have different solutions. Well, it sounds like she just got eaten. If you follow her, she just sort of disappears, though. And there's no reason for us to follow her because there's just a bunch of zombies between us. We're just gonna move along. Can't save everyone. Alright, can I grab this green herb and not get grabbed by the zombie? So far, so good. Okay, we're just gonna... Shit. I was gonna try to shove him, but I always time it wrong, and that's why I don't bother with the dodge system in this game. Because the timing is even more specific than it is in Resident Evil Revelations, where I also had trouble with dodging. Excuse me. Just gonna run by you. Run by you. The Bar Jack. I'm not 100% certain, but from what a little I've seen of Resident Evil Outbreak, I believe Outbreak starts in the Bar Jack. I might be wrong, though. Oh, shit. Off to a great start. I've already gotten attacked multiple times. You can tell I'm just a pro at this game. And this guy's misfortune will be our fortune as we run by him. Another solid oak door leading to an alleyway. Hey, it's that man. Oh shit, up. Who has once again left us with zombies to deal with. Oh, I didn't even point it out yet, but another new feature was the change from having stairs be sort of an action you have to do. You walk up and press X on them to walk up them. Now you can just freely run up and down them. This is also the first Resident Evil to have the 180-degree turn that I've been using already without mentioning. Which is super helpful, especially since you can run pretty fast in the other direction as soon as you turn. Nope, don't want to get grabbed by the ghoulies. I would have got grabbed there if that knife hadn't killed him in that last hit. A square hole. Yeah, I'm sure it doesn't mean anything. Alright, maybe we can finally catch up with this jerk and give him a talking to. It's very irresponsible to give other people your zombie problems.
Get away!
I like that Jill's just kind of shaking her head in the background when he gets bit. Like, oh, figures.
Brad, hang in there. Why isn't someone doing something about this?
I didn't know you were still alive, Jill. The police aren't trained for this kind of situation. What could they do? Listen, he's coming for us. We're both gonna die.
What are you saying?
You'll see. He's after S.T.A.R.S members. There's no escape.
Now, even if you've played Resident Evil 1, it might not be completely clear who that is. That's actually Brad Vickers, one of the only S.T.A.R.S members to have survived the first game. He's the helicopter pilot that abandons you at the beginning of the game and then eventually comes back to pick you up. Also known as Chicken Heart Vickers. We got a lighter. Like every lighter in every Resident Evil game, it's empty for some reason. Even the lighter that Chris is carrying in Resident Evil 1 is empty at the beginning. He's just carrying an empty lighter around. And we got a photograph on this counter here. I'm sure that won't come up again. And like any bar in the States, you can find handgun ammunition under the counter. Now we could follow Brad back out here, but there's not really a reason to. I'm gonna get grabbed. Oh, jeez. That was a dumb thing to do, just stand there. The only other thing I wanted to point out is that this door here is locked and it has a special message. That's because that's the... Shit. Yeah, I'm gonna get friggin' gang bit here. This is a bad idea. That's why I don't normally go out that door, but I just wanted to point out the boutique door because that's the door you use to get extra costumes with the boutique key that you get for beating the game. And since we haven't saved, I guess I'm gonna have to play back up to this point. Alright, so this time we're definitely not gonna follow Brad out into the street because literally all it does is get us killed and make us walk back around to the other place we need to go, because we actually need to go back into this alleyway. First thing we want to do is go down to this locked door because it's locked from this side, so we just want to unlock it for later. Oh dear, a horde of zombies have broken down the barricade. Luckily, we have another new gameplay element here. This explosive barrel is in fact an explosive barrel, and if you use R2 to aim instead of R1, you can snap to the barrel instead of the zombies and blow up a whole lot of dead people. I've never been able to get all of those zombies into one group. There's always one or two that survive. I'm not sure why they sort of walk towards the wall to get towards you, but I do know that if they're not facing directly towards you, as in if they're walking diagonally next to you, they can still grab you, but you cannot do the dodge move, as it only counts if they're facing you. And behind this barricade, we've got some dead cops and some red herbs, as well as a photo on one of the dead cops from the opening cutscene. I'm not sure who took this photo. The photos are similar to the film reels in the second game actually, in that they're completely optional and you don't really have to do anything with them. However, here we actually get photos instead of having to collect film reels and take them to the dark room to develop them. Take those 2 red herbs, and then we've got a puzzle. Now, we could just use our combat knife to cut the rope, but that's a little too logical. Luckily, someone has completely slathered the rope with oil, and we can use our lighter to burn through it. First puzzle solved. Burn the rope indeed. That's a familiar sound. If we we check on the map here, we can actually see there's a door behind that fire, but there's not really anything we can do about it right now, as we have to deal with undead dogs. The Cerberus are an enemy in pretty much every Resident Evil game, and they pretty much have the same behavior patterns in this game. When you first enter a room where they are, if they're not scripted to attack you, they'll actually just kind of walk around until you either run, get close to them, or shoot at one of them. Then they'll all run straight at you. Deposit our red herbs because they're no good to us. Deposit our lighter. Get rid of the knife, which we'll never use ever again. And we'll take out our ink ribbons, because I think we'll call it here for episode 1. First, let's grab these gunpowder A's. Now, you might have noticed that there was a balcony in that busy street where I died that had 2 green herbs on it. I am going to go back for any non-essential items that I missed like that in between episodes, because, you know, it's not really that interesting to watch me backtrack just to grab some items. So that sort of stuff I'll still cut out, but we'll keep in all the essential stuff. So that'll do it for episode 1 of Let's Play Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. I almost said Revelations there. Let me know if you guys want to see some more Resident Evil here. I figured I'll eventually cover all of the old ones, just because I'm such a... one of the few people that I feel is still fond of Resident Evil, the old Resident Evils. But I'm also one of the few people I think that likes the old ones and the new ones, instead of an either-or. Anyhow, until next time, I've been Shadefyre, and I'll see you all around, back in Raccoon City. Until then, have a fine day, folks. So, I'm just going to show off what we get in easy mode here. First off, you'll notice Jill starts with an assault rifle in her hands, which we can use to just mow down this zombie. Now, like most automatic weapons in the old Resident Evil games, the M4A1 uses a percentage system for its ammunition instead of an actual clip, so you can get more clips that just add more percentage. We also get a first aid box, which contains 3 first aid sprays, but only takes up 1 slot. And the rest of the stuff we have to actually get to an item box to show off, so we'll skip ahead to that. Alright, now that we've gotten to the first item box, I can show off the rest of what we get. First off, we get infinite ink ribbons, we get the Magnum and 30 bullets, the shotgun and a whole pile of bullets, shells, the handgun and a ridiculous amount of bullets, and 2 more clips for our assault rifle, as well as a knife, for some reason. So as you can see, easy mode isn't really meant for people who know anything about Resident Evil. It's sort of the, I want to play this, but I'm really bad at it, so I just want to blast through it. Oh dear, just turn off my controller. I also like to point out that the assault rifle here is actually non-lockable in hard mode, though I don't remember exactly what you have to do to get it. It might just be beat the game with a certain rank, or it might be for success in Mercenaries. I'll have to double check that. You know, we'll see it eventually anyway, when I actually unlock it in our main file. So that's easy mode. That's pretty much all it is, just a lot more guns.